dear.
Oh my God.
I can't handle that. It makes me cry.
Interesting time. We gotta talk about our holidays again. I want to begin to set some of that stuff up too.
Yeah.
With like speakers and readers
Okay,
and stuff.
yeah.
In a serious way, I'm saying. Like,
No, obviously, yeah.
Intentional way.
No.
Yeah,
Obviously, and I
thank
want to let me know what you need me to do. Whatever you need, I will do it. I feel like I'm 13 again.
Yeah, it actually looks very nice on you.
I was just here. I have to tell you the story about this. It was handmade.
So no, I was gonna say. So like
This is back when
the
girls did
actual
not have.
talus.
This was my talus for my bat mitzvah.
Yeah, because it's actually really pretty.
My Hebrew
like,
name?
It's colorful. Oh, that's nice too. Look at that.
What is it?
And that's Oprah.
Oprah, yes.
Oprah, yeah. Yeah, Oprah.
There you go. Bam.
Yeah, not Oprah,
No, definitely not.
Oprah.
Although I wouldn't mind her bank account.
She's got a little cash on her.
A little bit.
A little coin. It does feel off to me. Everyone's on one side. It just feels like
We should
it's
move it.
like
We
it's
should move
tilting.
this.
I can move the podium over a foot and a half. It's just like it looks not.
It's kind of cute.
We have a minion.
We do.
Yeah, just barely.
That's right.
Yeah. No. Yeah, 10.
And then we're 12.
No, to be clear, not Jewish.
Would you stop with that?
That's part of a minion. I'm egalitarian, but I'm not,
No, but for Reform can't.
No, not even the Reform.
Really?
Yeah.
What a Reconstructionist.
No, I don't think so. Hey, look, for me, 10 is 10. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to touch the prayers.
I mean, the Jews for Jesus. They think we found this.
Oh, my God. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome. Yeah, don't mind us, you can chat away.
Enjoy yourselves.
Enjoy yourselves.
Bring some coffee.
Informal this evening. It's great to have everyone here, both in person, on stream, on the Zoom land, not Zoom anymore, but on the streaming service. We are entering into our sort of summer schedule, which is sort of fun. Unfortunately, Beth Gelman is a little ill this evening, so she could not make it. She'll be getting better, of course, soon, but if something's going around, I can let you know. So, but on the good news, we have Heather here with us, filling in. Yay, Heather, who on a few hours' notice have stepped in. So we appreciate that as always. Let's turn to each other and say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Behind me. Because God forbid she said we're supposed to sit. Shabbat Shalom. I was going to say, actually, it feels like, we need a little more balance. It's good that, Yeah, it's like the boat's going to tip over, It's just everyone's on one side. Trying to hold things down on this side with Ruth. Okay, let's join together. Prayer of welcome, celebrating how good it is for us to be together.
Magnets, text.
Hine ma tov.
Sorry. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Catching up, 2 more on my side. We're on page 125. Opening words of prayer responsively by paragraph. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Together?
Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life.
Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat, abide. We're going to turn back to page 120 and 121, Kabbalat Panim, as we welcome Shabbat with the lighting of candles and with Kiddush. We're going to call it to come forward, Karen Roth and Gary Ford. Let's all rise together.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Vahi Erev, Vahi Boker Yom HaShishi. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day, declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho be'ahava uvratzon hin hilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom tehillah lemikrae kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim Kivanu vaharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat koshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
The finest vintage. Let's take our seats. We're on page 138 and 139 for the singing of Lecha Dodi. We're singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and on that final verse, we'll rise together. We'll face the door as we greet the Sabbath bride.
Bum ba-dum bum lacha lacha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala lacha lacha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala la 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 lacha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala woo lacha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmianu el hamichad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem ultiferet v'liti la 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 l'cha dodi Ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala L'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Ligrat Shabbat lechivu nicha Ki hi mikor habaracha Merosh migdem nesucha Sof maaseh b'mishpat la 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 l'cha dodi Ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala L'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Hitoreri Ki va'ore kumi uri shir daberi Kavod Adonai Ali Yichnik la 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 l'cha dodi Ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Woo l'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Boi v'shalom ateret bala Kam b'simcha uv'tohola Toch emune am segula Boi chala l'cha dodi Ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Woo l'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala la 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 l'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala Woo l'cha dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikabala.
We're on page 146 as we remain standing as we continue with the Baruch Hu, our call to worship.
Lie, lie, la la lie, 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 la la lie, 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 lie. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach. Le'olam, le'olam va'ed. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Now and forever.
But there's more Nigun coming in.
Actually, the old school. So
Let's take our seats. I felt those more lies there. I forgot about the English. Okay, speaking of English, let's turn to page 149 and 151. We're going to have Denise Kirschbaum and Barbara Bachman come up to lead us in these next two prayers. Over the summer, we're going to be inviting congregants who would like to come forward and help lead the service to do so as a way of increasing community and people's comfortability here on the Bima. Comfortability.
It is
If I've said it.
So it is said, so it is written.
Page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Nicely done. Well done.
Two of your good readers.
This week English, next week Torah reading. Okay, let's all rise together on page 152 as we proclaim the old school watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malechuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. On page 154, let's continue together with the words of the V'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shiftecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshachbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam le'od al yadecha, v'hayu letotafod bein einecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, leman tizkaru, Va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lehiyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
On page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. Together, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. On the next page, Mi Chamocha. The tambourine is out.
Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Yai lai lai la 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 la. Ya lai la lai la lai la 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 la. Ya la lai lai ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, no ra tehilot osefele, no ra tehilot osefele. Malachutecha ra'u vanecha, Bokeyayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli anu ve'amru, Ze'eli anu ve'amru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai 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 la 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 la. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai la lai la lai la 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 la. Yai la lai la yai la 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 la. Jazz hands. I got the spirit fingers.
Spirit fingers and the jazz hands. Let's turn now to page 161. 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Together, Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. On page 162, we continue with a song for Shabbat Vishamru.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. B'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doroto berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshe yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
On page 165, pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. Let's rise together for the Amidah HaTefillah, beginning on page 164, continuing through page 170.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasdei Avot V'imaot, Umevi Gulula Livnei V'nehem, Lima'an Shema B'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Lechoshia, Morid HaTahal, Mehalkel Hayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'el Givurot, Umidom Elach, Melech Memid, Umechayeh, Umatzmiya Yeshua, B'ne'ema Anata L'chachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, Ukdoshim B'chol Yom Yehalelu L'Sela. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. Let's turn to page 173. In the middle of the page, we'll read responsively by paragraph. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Together,
Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred.
Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears.
Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality.
Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. On page 177. At the top of the page, let's continue together in our prayer of thanksgiving. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. On page 179, the top of the page. Let's continue together. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart.
Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses
our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Let's turn now to page 371 as our thoughts turn to loved ones, members of our community who are in need of healing. We think of them at this time, praying that God restores to them a sense of shlemut, a sense of wholeness, and a sense of kedusha, a sense of holiness as they recover from whatever ails them. Let's continue together in the middle of the page. Mi sheberach.
Mi sheberach Avotenu Mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We are thinking of at this time and wishing a refuah shlema to Pat Adamson, Raymond Douglas Alcorn, Marty Bilo, Frankie Clement, Evan Bin, Ann Cole, Mark Edelstein, Mickey Edelstein, Benjamin Edelstein, and Brian Edelstein, Danielle Heyman Feist, Eric Fisk, Philip Gelman, Bob Gold and Carolyn Gold, Jennifer Gousset, Barbara and Buddy Green, Marvin Hollander, Lori Cattleman, Stuart J., Hank Corin, Wendy Sugarman Krasnoff, Robert Jaffe, Michael Lynch, Dolores Munsick, Ruth Poehler, Lee Siegel, and Stacy Siegel, Dr. Cindy Steinman, Fred Truax, Pete Tanner, Cheryl Mattis, and Kevin Stone. Would anyone else like to mention the name of someone they are thinking of at this time? Let's continue together.
Mi sheberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Let's continue with Tefillat Halev, the prayer of the heart.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, huya say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, v'imru, amen. Ya say shalom, ya say shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ya say shalom, ya say shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya say shalom, ya say shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya say shalom, ya say shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya say shalom, ya say shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. I would close your Vanna White.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. In lieu of a sermon or a story this evening, we thought a rollicking round of Ask the Rabbi was called for, a little something different this evening. We pull this out every once in a while. It's time to ask questions about Jewish life, culture, history, tradition. If I know the answer, great. If not, I'll make it up, or I'll send you to Google, one or the other. But it's a nice opportunity to try some different things. High holidays are, in fact, coming up, amongst other things. Okay, Ruth has a question.
It makes me proud because why did the Jews survive when other bigger nations did not survive? It's because we had a book of laws that gave us the tools to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, these were just simple laws, but they had so much common sense that they gave us the tools to survive.
Excellent. So much there was a question there, but it's a good statement. A nice opening remark. I love it. That's good. Yep.
Reverend, we talk about kosher foods.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and so explain, I think I know what it means, why you can't put meat and dairy together. Chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I know it, but what were the ancient origins?
It's interesting because from a biblical perspective, we have that verse of not, boiling a calf in its mother's milk, right? And that has been taken to be meaning no cheeseburgers, right? Even though a strict reading of that, I'm not sure. There's something to be said about, the idea of Sar Balei Chaim, the idea of being compassionate to animals, this idea that it's cruel to somehow mix the mother and the young together. We have this with the bird's nest. And so if you see a bird's nest with a bird on it, you're allowed to take the bird or the eggs, but not both. You need to let one of them survive, so to speak, for the next generation. I don't know why this never came to be an issue with eggs and chicken. You can have those together all you want, but milk and meat, doesn't work in the same way. I will say this, just as an addendum, because I like to mention it, that the Talmud actually does permit you to have the mixing of milk and meat if the milk is 1/60th of the total amount of the food. And so, it's kezayit. It is the size of an olive, it's a kind of measurement. But the reason I mention that is that because if you were in an Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox house, I think I've given this example before, maybe from the Bima, but let's say you were making a big old pot of matzo ball soup, right? And you had it on the stove, fire's going, a little bubbling happening, delicious, it smells really good, you're ready to eat. But then, your 3-year-old wants a cup of milk, beforehand. You take the gallon of milk out of the fridge and you drop it, right? And if you drop it, it hits the ground, it comes up, and you hear a splash. Some of that milk went in to that pot of chicken soup, but how much chicken soup are you making and how much milk sort of went in? In the Orthodox tradition, at this point in time, the whole soup gets thrown out. Right, no one's going to say, kezayit, a little piece of the olive, sort of, a tiny bit went in. It's all going to be trashed because there's a tendency to sort of be more absolutist at this time, to not live in the Talmudic gray.
They had wooden utensils and pots, and you would put milk in a dish, you're making something from dairy, then you wipe it out, and you put in meat, chop up, and the meat would sour. Because of the dairy that was in it. So that's what I was.
There could be a health issue, sort of in terms of ancient times, in terms of more of a sociological question. It's also a theological question. There could have been something with, health and hygiene with it. I'm not sure. The other question, of course, that always comes up is, if we say you can't boil a kid in its mother's milk, that means no veal parm. What happens to chicken parm? It's like, why is chicken parm also pasul? It's also treif, it's forbidden. And the idea is the slippery slope of Jewish law, right? That if you're sitting there in the restaurant and you're eating your chicken parm, you'll think, that's pretty good, but what would be even better? Veal parm. Then you would order it, and then, so like it just takes you downhill. So they create the fence, the box around the Torah, so they put all the meat out, with milk. So no chicken parm, no veal parm, no chicken Alfredo. Yep.
While we're on dietary law, why are we not supposed to eat meat of the cloven hoof?
That's actually a very interesting question because in Leviticus, in Parshat Shemini, that it gives us the foods that we can and can't eat. It doesn't tell you why. It just says, thou shalt not And this is in, this is out, but it doesn't say, because that's a great question, because you would think it would say because these animals are gross or because they're like forbidden for these reasons. And so it leaves the rabbis with a ton of room to make interpretation and say, well, this is why, and this is why, and this is why. But the Torah actually doesn't say why the animals. It gives us the categories. Choose its cud, has a true hoof. The birds doesn't give you anything actually on the birds at all. It's just more from when you read the list of birds that are permitted versus prohibited. We see that most of the birds that are prohibited are scavenger birds. They eat meat. And they're there's some that are more like aggressively scavenging, meat-eating animals. Most of the animals we have that are kosher are vegetarian, for whatever that's worth. The fish, the gills, fins and gills and scales and all the other sort of good stuff. Yeah, but that's, so I'll jump off that for a second because I don't know if everyone heard it. Shrimp are delicious. I think someone said that, but I heard that from here. It reminds me back home when I was in my home congregation just as a kid. I remember this very clearly. The rabbi's on the bima with some of the younger kids, because I was a little older at that time. So the rabbi's up there, and he asked the kids, like, what are their favorite foods? So one kid raises his hand and goes, bacon! You never give kids a live mic. You have to. And then he asked again, and another kid, how little kids are, so it's also, he said bacon also. And then I was, okay, how about a different food that's not bacon? And of course, the next answer was? Sausage. Sausage came up next. No, what I was going to mention was that there is a movement, such that it is a movement within liberal progressive reform, in terms of theologically progressive, circles, to have the question of sustainable eating, sustainable fish, and the idea that if a fish is overfished, right, if there's an ecological, environmental issue, eating a fish that is kosher, is it not better to eat a fish that is non-kosher, that is more environmentally, ecologically sustainable? And so there's a lot of sort of thought on that, the eco-Judaism, eco-kashrut. So it's a question. I mean, like I think that there's interesting questions to be had. I'll put it that way. On it. It was never my favorite anyway. Out of the trafe, the shellfish was not my thing anyway. So easy come, easy go.
Okay, my question is.
Yeah. Why do we cover the eyes during the Shema? So the idea is, for Shema, it means like listen, to hear. And so the better translation of it really isn't listening, it's about paying attention, right? And so the idea is you cover your eyes in a way, so you're blocking out everything else around you, so you can really focus and concentrate on the words you're saying, and you hear, the words that you are saying. So it's about a sort of focused concentration. Some people hold their hands like a shin, for Shaddai, that way they're holding it's an extra kavanah and it's extra intention to remind us about God and God's presence, God's unity. It's a really good question. It's part of the Jewish choreography of prayer. Some people like it, some people don't. Yeah. Yeah. You're bringing the light. That's how I learned it. I'm sure actually there are other interpretations, but you're bringing the light towards you, bringing the warmth of Shabbat sort of towards you. Just don't burn your pinky when you're doing it. Just be careful. I always got worried with, this is more for bar bat mitzvah, actually bat mitzvah specifically, when we would do a Havdalah bat mitzvah, and, these 13-year-olds would be in their, like, very flowery, like, dresses that looked very flammable, and between that and the hair gel and the spray and stuff, I'm just always like, we're like, don't hold the candle too close to you. Keep the candle far away, or else, that's not what you want during a bat mitzvah. This popped into my head.
I'm wondering, for people who keep kosher, how are pots, pans, and eating utensils and plates prepared to make it kosher?
A lot of boiling is involved. Separate, they have to be separate as it is. You have separate sinks, separate drawers, but then if something needs to be koshered, or burying them,
My grandmother used to bury them.
Wow. Yeah, it comes to, because some things you can't kosher once they're unkosher, which is why you have to bury them. It's like ceramics, I think, are an example. If a ceramic becomes unkosher, there's no coming back from it. With metal and glass, you can do things, but certain things you can't kosher once there. I just had a memory of walking in Mea She'arim. Does anyone know where that is? Been to Mea She'arim? Yeah, the Haredi section of Jerusalem. And I took a walk there once with a friend of mine pre-Passover. You want to have a good time. You walk there pre-Passover, just on the streets, just vats of boiling water, just like an accident waiting to happen. So they can just kosher all of their stuff like in public and throw it into these like huge vats of boiling water. And so that was like one of the ways of koshering them. But sometimes, and again, you've come this far, you can't go back. You know, it's already unkosher enough, it's got to go. You gotta toss it. That's why I see a lot of metal and a lot of glass, because those are more easily koshered. Yeah. Yeah, tell me an anecdote.
My friend in Chicago years ago when we were in high school, her parents kept kosher, a set for meat, a set for dairy, and a set Chinese food.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Because they wanted to eat their shrimp fried rice and everything on it, whatever.
My grandfather of blessed memory, that was, part of his thing. He relaxed a little more through the years, but that was always like the Chinese food didn't count as trafe. As soon as he sat down, he would never have ham or bacon in the house, but the first thing that came out was the shrimp and lobster sauce and the pork fried rice whenever we went out for Chinese. That was his go-to. And, of course, the egg roll. Hold on, we got one over here, and then...
I have a question, a choreography question.
Yeah.
For the Kaddish,
Yeah.
the very last stanza and verses.
The Oseh Shalom?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does that choreography stand?
Little twist and shout. Yeah, it's so, and I always forget which way to start it when I'm not looking at the page. But it goes like 1, 2, 3. Oseh Shalom, Bimromav, Huya Oseh Shalom, Ali Nevel Kol Yisrael, Vimro Amen. It's an acknowledgement of God's presence being everywhere, the God who makes peace around us, right? And so we're literally almost like the lulav and etrog during Sukkot, when we're waving the foliage around. It's an acknowledgement of God's presence being, that's how I learned it. Again, I'm sure there might be other interpretations, but that's how I learned it.
Rabbi, is turkey bacon okay to eat? That's meat from turkey.
Kosher wise, yes. Taste wise, I don't know. My parents were big into turkey bacon when I was growing up. It was all right. But from a kashrut standpoint, yes, it is good. It has to be kosher turkey bacon, because turkey bacon by itself, it depends on shchita, how it's slaughtered. But yeah, 100%. Turkey bacon's good. At Lenny's, they have duck bacon, right? Do they still have that anymore at Lenny's? They have duck. Yeah, Karen's shaking her head. Yeah, nodding her head. Yeah, duck bacon. Of course, you have the faux bacon, the fakin, Go ahead, Winter.
So after reading an article on reformjudaism.com, I got interested in Musar.
Yes.
The intro course. What do you think about that as a study for
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Musar. So the Musar movement, I would call the spirituality of menschmaking. The idea came up, Israel Slanter amongst others, that there was more than one time in Jewish history when overt expression of Jewish ritual was prohibited, outlawed. You could be endangered if you lit candles. If someone saw you, you could be reported to the authorities. The Jews had to be more careful with that. But the idea was that ritual is so important to us. We have a ritual life, in Jewish tradition. We light candles, there are prayers, songs, there are holiday traditions that are really important that we would never think to ourselves on Rosh Hashanah, let's not do shofar. On Kol Nidre, we'd never go, forget the Kol, we don't need it anymore, let's get rid of it. Passover, the Seder, we would never think, let's not do the Seder, right? So Musar came in with the idea is, can we ritualize our ethics? Can we work on ourselves? There was an internal sort of process about what are our values and how do we express our values more consistently in the world, right? And so as a study, it was all about character development, self-improvement, and what are the ways that we can strengthen that muscle, almost like a physical muscle like at the gym. How are you going to strengthen your spiritual muscles, your ethics, your morality, your character? How are you going to do that? Practice, right? And so they would say, hey, maybe you're going to meditate on this value and think about it for half an hour a day. Maybe you're going to journal. You're going to write about this value. This is hundreds of years ago. Maybe there are chants that you're going to say, aphorisms, mantras. That's what I wanted, mantras. That you're going to say to yourself every morning and every night to remind you to whatever it might be. Be more humble. Be more kind. Be less. Less unstable in some way, less angry, whatever it might be. And so that's what it was. It was a way to almost ritualize our ethics, to strengthen us up from a moral standpoint. And it was, again, in a way, a response to the lack of the ability to do certain rituals, but it was also the idea of let's make our ethics like our ritual, in a way, that we would never think of if we saw someone that needed help, we would never think, oh, forget them, I don't have to help them today. Yeah, you sort of do. That was sort of the goal of the Musar movement. As a funny story, when I was, I think it was my second year out of rabbinical school, Reform Judaism magazine of blessed memory. Does anyone remember that magazine? That's gone for years, of blessed memory. So someone came up to me, I was like, again, a couple of years out of seminary, and they say, Rabbi, can you teach us a class on Musar? And I went, what now? So they gave me the article, and so I said, give me 6 months. And I sort of learned about Musar, and then I taught the class because I thought it was fascinating, and I have quite a Musar library, in my office.
So, Rabbi, can we have a Musar here class?
I'd be happy to teach a little Musar. It's one of my favorites. I'd be happy to teach. We could figure out a day for Musar. It is, I think, a very interesting and very accessible, actually, study. And one of the great works of Musar, we don't know who the author is, but it's actually speculation. It's one of the greatest works of female Jewish writing of that time period. It was published anonymously, but there is a theory behind it that it was actually a work of a very wise and scholarly woman, which we didn't have at that time period in terms of being able to be published. There were, of course, very brilliant women around, but I'm talking about ones who were able to write something and get published, couldn't use her name, so it's anonymous. It's a theory, but it is one of the things that I love about Musar is that it is accessible and there's an egalitarian spirit to it, which I think is really cool. So. Constantly being reconstructed. No, that's sort of what it is. That's why it's hard to define. So the Reconstructionist movement comes out of the theories and philosophies of Mordecai Kaplan, who was very big into Judaism as civilization, Judaism as peoplehood, with a limited, if not, well, limited is actually the wrong word. The conception of the deity was that there was not a personal God, and that God sort of like you see God through history, but you can't pray, to a deity who's not going to help you, right? So there's no personal God. That's why I'm saying it's because that has shifted a bit in the Reconstructionist movement. Because if you go to synagogue in a Reconstructionist movement, they do have, prayers, and they do have God language, but it is different. And they were very influential in pushing for egalitarianism in prayer and ritual. They're the ones who came up with the bat mitzvah. So that was them, and confirmation was also the Reconstructionist movement, so a lot of really good ideas. And like the Reform movement, and I think really like all movements, we're all evolving in a certain way, but that's why I said Reconstructionists is a little harder to pin down, because they, to me, sometimes feel like a mix of conservative Judaism and Reform Judaism. They sort of take from both, and it's just very interesting. They have a seminary in Philadelphia, and it's very popular. But it's still, like, amongst the movements, it's still one of the smaller ones that are around. If we're talking about the big three, big five, they're getting there. They're growing. Okay, I think we're going to call it, because I could go on all night, but because I enjoy these, but I think we'll call it. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you, Heather, for your mic work, and for, bringing me to a Musar class next year. We're going to rise for Aleinu on page 586. I'm booming in this one. A boomer.
You're a boomer.
Would anyone like to run up and open the ark? You don't have to run.
Walk with purpose.
You can walk with purpose. Yeah, I see Sandy moving. Yeah. 3 people, come on up and open the ark. Come on. Giddy up.
Absolutely.
After all this kosher food talk, I'm getting a little hungry. I may or may not have ordered from Katz's Deli yesterday.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, la'tet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo samanu kamize haratzot, velo samanu kamishpahot ha'adama, shelo sam helkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kichol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim. Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai v'melech ol kol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad ushemo Ushemo echad. Please be seated.
Which one? We're on page 594 at the top of the page. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God in each hour of the 24 and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God in my own face in the glass. I find letters from God dropped in the street, and every one is signed by God's name. And I leave them where they are, for I know that wheresoever I go, others will punctually come forever and ever. We think of those who have passed away during this last year. Mary John Resch, Liesl Schick, Linda Laban Slavinsky, Jay Roth, Fran Brickman, John Conway, Michael Vereb, Janice Lederer, Bernice Lippman, Eric Adler, Ezra Bobo, Richard Corwin, Dr. Sonia Linky, Barbara Finkel, and Elsa Mikosh. We also think of those who died this season in years past, our yurtzeit list this evening. Mildred Edelman, Lawrence Applefield, Irving Baker, Paul M. Bachman, Marion Bauman, Floyd Benchy, Joan Benjamin, Raphael Berger, Leah Burse, Sidney M. Better, Sarah Bloom, Fanny Borsick, Fred Cohen, Robert Stephen Dennis, Leah Deverich, Charlene Field, Charles Feit, Louis Frank, Thelma Friedman, Anna Freirich, Albert Frisch, Milton Geiger, Bernard Ginsberg, Sam Gottenberg, Sylvia Gottenberg, Hannah Dobbin Graniff, Kurt Gross, Sasha Bryn Harriman, Abraham Haim, Marion N. Hirsch, Arnold Jacoby, Lillian Krause, Rose Kritzer, Hyman Lakoff, Bernard Lapidus, Manuel Lev, Sam Levine, Helen E. Metro, Joseph E. Metro, Bess Miller, Deborah Montrose, Lillian Morris, Joel Novick, Mary John Resch, Charles Nathan Roth, Sylvia San, Ernest Schnur, Marcia Seeger, Faye Silverstein, Jacob Sperber, Joseph Stein, Abraham Sterensis, Bernice Stewart, Al Sulkis, Lillian Treiser, Francis Tudor, David Euclist, Maurice Westerman, George Wolfe. Is anyone else observing a yard site, saying Kaddish for any reason?
My brother, Thomas Clark Ford.
Let's now rise together, united in spirit as one community. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach erutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, bagala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam l'almei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit adar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush v'chata v'nechemata. Da amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shloma rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, Israel, and all of the world. As together we say amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. It's my pleasure to call up one of our temple co-presidents, Sandy Sunter, for a few synagogue announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody here in our sanctuary, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone at home this evening. Thank you, Rabbi. I love question and answers, and I learned so much tonight, several things I really did not know. And thank you, Heather, for your participating and keeping the music going. It's important. Thank you for everybody being here. Those of you participating in the service, too, thank you very much. I think probably what I'm looking really truly is at the back of our handout today, and that we are going to have on June the 30th, we're going to have a dinner in Shabbatizers on June 30th. We'll have it here at 5:30. And they're talking, an interfaith lunch. I don't know where that is.
That's not a community event.
That's not a community event.
That's me and my pastor friends.
That's Rabbi's, okay. I know the sisterhood, we have one of our dinners coming up. Third Wednesday, we're going to Taipei. And does anybody have other announcements right now? Things are nice and cool, and we're just kind of enjoying this little slower season. But anybody have any else announcements? Anybody else, Rabbi here?
Yeah. Pride Shabbat in 3 weeks.
I'm sorry?
Pride Shabbat.
Pride Shabbat. Pride Shabbat in 3 weeks. Okay, that's just definitely. It's not here, but please.
It's not there, we gotta write it up.
Okay, we will write it up. Again, and always as a reminder, please make sure that you look at your e-blasts and make sure that you are kept up to date. But I wanted to just share this a little bit. I'm working in a memory care unit, and one of the things that's come out of that is the gift of laughter. For me, as the person observing and being with the residents, the laughter that I experience, not at them, but with them, with these folks who live moment to moment, minute to minute. I'm their new best friend every 5 minutes. And you go, there's no egos, there's no, you did this or you did that. Once in a while, one gets mad at you. One told me the other day to go shove it up, you know what, but and that's the sundowning part. But I thought about the gift of laughter because part of watching so many of them, how important it is. So I'm just going to read this a little thing. God, we give thanks for the gift of laughter, for chuckles and guffaws, for giggles and grins, for silliness and goofiness, and roll on the floor hysterics. Hear this prayer for those who wit and wisdom enliven and enlighten our lives. Let heaven pour enthusiasm and inspiration through them, so that our lives overflow with celebration, so that when we laugh, our souls turn back to you. in wholeness and thanksgiving. Together, we offer our renewal back to heaven and rejoice, and Shabbat Shalom.
So yeah, just to clarify, every so often my colleagues here in the interfaith world to get together, we get a little lunch, and we sort of plan events for next year. And so before the summer really is upon us and everyone is sort of scattering, we have an interfaith Thanksgiving service to plan, and we have some other sort of things on the docket. So it's really nice. That group has also grown through the years, and I am the de facto sort of head of that group, so it's just fun for me to get everyone together and to work on these different initiatives. Sometimes our eyes are a bit bigger than our stomachs. We sort of have a lot of great plans, but it doesn't always work out time-wise because it's hard to get 2 people together, versus getting like 20 different synagogues and churches together. But it really is a lot of fun. For those of you who remember who were at the service last year, we brought in some different folks, and so it is growing. And we have some, again, nice ideas for next year. Let's see if ideas can turn into realities for some of these things, but it is a lot of fun and a passion of mine. So looking forward to that and to Pride Shabbat as well. And again, summer is a little quieter, but we're hard at work on many things, including holiday prep. So we're at that time of year where I'm just like bringing bags of books home, like I'm just like transferring books back and forth to read, in preparation for the holiday, which is frankly actually a little exciting. So that's fun. With all of that said, a little singing.
A little singing. Let's go ahead and turn to page 657 for Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. It's a favorite. I just can't help it.
I know, you're a big fan. I like it too.
It just makes me happy. It's a Happy Heather song.
Od Yavod, 657 at the bottom of the page.
Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavod Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Let's all rise together for Motzi.
Ha-motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Thank you, God. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, ha-motzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Shabbat Shalom.